Hi everyone, I am Kimberly, the 5-Minute NP. The 5-Minute NP was born out of my belief that small, incremental changes can drastically change the trajectory of your life. Our genes do not have to determine our lifespan. My goal through this podcast is to act as a roadmap that bridges the gap between knowledge and action, leading to you living your healthiest, happiest, longest life. Welcome to the 5-Minute NP podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to the 5-Minute NP podcast. In this episode, I was honored to have Jolene Hart, a Philadelphia-based writer, founder of Beauty is Wellness, which is a natural beauty and health coaching practice, and author of the international bestseller Eat Pretty, and her latest, most anticipated book, Ignite Your Light, which she talks about today on the podcast. Jolene discusses how we have the power to write our own story and transform our beauty, strength, relationships, attitude, and health with the energy of our body, mind, emotions, and spirit. I loved having her on the podcast, and I know her work will impact your life. Welcome to the 5-Minute NP podcast. Hi, Jolene. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk with you today. I have been inspired by your work. I love your work. Your books are so calming and inspirational, informative, and backed by science, which I love. And I just think you have a gift of writing, and you're easy to understand. And Eat Pretty was the first book that I read by you. And it's funny because my older daughter had it in her room and I didn't know anything about it. And I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. I'm like, this is awesome. I love your...
That's so funny, getting the wisdom from your daughter. That's wonderful.
I know. So both of my girls, they're so excited I'm talking to you today. They just can't believe it because they love your work. So
what a cool mom.
Yeah. So I think what's cool about your books, just to kind of, people that haven't read them, I mean, there's books that you can read once and like, oh, that was a great book, but your books aren't like that. They're really like manuals that you pick up over and over again for nutrition tips, recipes, ways to, de-stress and just improve your digestion and overall wellness, and just true gems.
I pick them up myself again and again because we all forget. I mean, you get so busy. The seasons change and you forget what foods and meals that you actually like. I mean, I do the same thing. I pick them up to remind myself. And so I'm so glad that they serve that purpose for other people.
It's true. And that in your Eat Pretty, you're right. Like you literally go through each season and what, foods you should be eating and things that are good for your skin and digestion. And it's just such good information.
It's so cool, right? And I didn't invent any of it. This is all nature. And when I was writing and experimenting on my own body and researching, it was such an aha, like, this is so obvious, but we have to kind of spell it out because I think we had gone so far in one direction of just looking at things topically and not acknowledging that inner power and the inner influence. And it comes together and you think, well, this is obvious, but it needed to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. And I think coming from you, you're so authentic, inspiring. And even when you're sharing your own personal struggles or, hey, I wasn't feeling happy today or whatever, you still do it in such a positive light. And I think that is so great for people to see. And that's what I can't wait to get into your book because it's all about the power of shifting your energy. And
right. Yeah. And I'm not always positive, and I've been through so many experiences that have put me in complete opposite place, but I've learned the real power in shifting your energy into feeling that the low, the dim energy, the pain or the emotion, and then knowing your power to shift yourself out of it because you're going to continue to write your story, and your story could be, and that was it, and here I was, and I didn't leave my bed today. Or it could be, I took a breath, I had a cry, I went for a walk, and I reset myself, and you have that power.
That is so good. Well, I wanted to talk about that. I want you to share a little bit about how you went from a former magazine editor to a health and wellness coach.
Yeah, so the beginning of my story is all about my skin. So I had about a decade there in my 20s, well, from my late teens to my late 20s, where my skin was just so unhappy. And it was cystic acne, it was eczema. And I sought treatment from so many experts because during that time I was able to get a job at InStyle magazine as a beauty editor. And so one of the perks was, hey, you can go see celebrity facialists, you can interview these top dermatologists for your stories. And so I just knew somewhere I was going to find that answer. And I would try whatever beauty products would come across my desk. I could call a company and request products to try. And I just figured somewhere I would find the solution. And there were lots of band-aids. I got very good at concealing and covering things up,
Yeah.
but I never found a root cause or a cure. And looking back to kind of where I grew up from, my mom had started a health food co-op when I was a kid. She's all about, if you're having this problem, you need this food. Like food was medicine to her. And even though I was really prying with a lot of these experts about what can I do with my diet, there was never any answer there. And at that point I took a step back and decided to become a health coach, to become a freelancer, so go out on my own and just start researching the connection between skin and diet and lifestyle. So looking at Ayurveda, at genomics, at dermatology, Chinese medicine, all of this stuff that, there's a lot of wisdom there that maybe we had stepped away from for a time. And I felt like I wanted to learn more and experiment on my own body, and found, within a year, a huge changes in my body just from learning how to balance my blood sugar and look at specific skin nutrients and detox better and lower my stress levels. All of that was so huge for my skin. And I wanted to have that be a bigger part of the conversation. And that's kind of how Eat Pretty was born.
I was going to ask you that. Is that what inspired you to write Eat Pretty?
Absolutely. I mean, during those times, I was looking for any book that I could find for someone to give me some information. I would have loved to have had this knowledge in college, in high school, even in my 20s when I was, working in my first jobs, and I couldn't find it. I was such a book nerd. Like I devour books and information, and there just wasn't anything out there. And that's where Eat Pretty came from.
Looking at your skin, it's so hard to believe you've had any problems because it's like clear and glowing.
I still have, like, the thing for me, one of the things was like in the summer when you want to go swimming and nobody wants to have a face full of foundation in the pool. And I still, in the summer, you put on SPF, but like having naked skin in the summer is just like the best thing in the world. And I still love it and I'll never get tired of it.
Yeah. Well, what are some ways that, important ways when we're talking about skin that we can nourish our skin?
Well, I mentioned before blood sugar balance. So it's a little different for everyone. Some of my clients that I see have an issue with a food intolerance or inflammation. Some have a hormone imbalance, so they're working on a hormonal issue. Others, it might be that they're missing certain important skin nutrients. For me, blood sugar balance was a big thing because at that time in my life, I was pescatarian, but I was mostly vegetarian. And in my 20s, vegetarian meant, I could eat pizza and I could eat, stuff from the vending machine, and that was still vegetarian. And it's not that you can't eat those at all, but you have to understand what that's doing to your hormones when you eat a food that spikes your blood sugar and then you crash and then you grab sugar or caffeine or a diet soda or whatever you're going to grab. And the roller coaster that you're on throughout the day, what that does to your hormones and your body long term. So when I figured that out, which it seems like it should be for women, this essential primer of knowledge that we get, at some point we should learn about our hormonal health, our blood sugar, the fact that when your cortisol is high, it steals resources from every other hormone in your body. So it makes it almost impossible to have happy, healthy hormone balance. These sort of, foundational tidbits of knowledge that help you to know your body and your skin and your fertility and your energy so much better. And we don't get that. We don't receive that. So for me, those were the really big ahas. And also gluten was very inflammatory for me. And so it's something that I still avoid because I will feel and I'll see the difference, the puffiness right away when I put it back in.
Well, you talk about, starting out with, blood sugar stabilization. I mean, I feel like that's so important, even in like just in the beginning of your day, like how we start the beginning of our day really matters, what we're putting into ourselves. And I don't think a lot of people think about those things.
Right, because there's always, we always go back and forth with the news, like study shows that you should always eat breakfast, or study shows that you don't need to eat breakfast.
Right.
And the jury's still out, but you're so right. What you do in the morning, and this is food, this is mindset, this is how you prepare your body for the day, this is how you move your body, that really sets the tone for the whole day. And I think I sort of realized that little by little, step by step, that it's not just food, it's not just your mindset, it's your entire energy in the morning. And in the food sense, it's because of that blood sugar roller coaster that you're avoiding. If you can create a meal that's going to make you feel satiated and give you long, slow burning energy, you are going to feel so much calmer, more energetic, focused, and not hangry before you get to lunch. In the other sense of, energy and mindset and preparation, I think the way that you choose to start your day becomes a little reminder, like a check-in throughout the day, like how you prepare yourself, how you dress yourself, the thoughts that you have in the morning, how you move. It sets the tone, your energy tone, for how you're going to then check in with yourself every time you pass by a mirror and catch your reflection, or every time you pull up your phone and think about whatever where your mind was in the morning. That's a little reminder of where you want to be for that day with your intentions and your energy.
I think that's one of the biggest things that has changed for me is actually a morning routine. I mean, it has changed my life. And, I used to hear everybody talk about it, the miracle morning. And I'm like, okay, why am I this age? And I'm just now figuring this out, the impact it can have on my life.
Yeah. And during quarantine, I've had some mornings where I didn't get up and get dressed, and I find myself on the couch at 11:30 with my laptop feeling horrible. Like sometimes you have to just lift yourself up out of there, make yourself a great breakfast, put on an outfit that makes you feel amazing, and you completely shift wherever you were going.
Well, I was trying to look for that. I love in your book how you give that, like, this is when the shift came for me. This is what clicked for me. This is how I decided to change. I love that because people can relate to that. It's like, oh yeah, that is, yeah. And I love how you talk about like, so yeah, you're sitting on the couch, but I love how you talk about the instant shifts that you have and how we can incorporate those into our day. And it's funny because since I've read your book, I'm literally finding that I'm incorporating that into my life. I love to go out and enjoy the sunshine. It's these simple things that you talk about that we need to pay more attention to. And it can improve our health and our overall well-being and our mood and our energy, which it's so exciting to talk about this with you because it's like, no, it's like for real. Like it really makes a difference in your life.
Right. And you think, these things seem so powerful. Like you said, going out in your yard for a few minutes, and maybe before you would have thought, I don't need to waste 2 minutes out there putting my feet in the grass. But then you realize how powerful those tiny things are. And cumulatively, if you do that 2-3 times during the day, how you've completely shifted your energy. You've reset your cortisol too. You're grounding your body. And yeah, how powerful these tiny little things are that we maybe didn't give ourselves the chance to experience or give ourselves 2 minutes to indulge in before. They become so powerful for creating a big energy shift over the day. And that's the same with nutrition. Like every tiny little thing that you choose adds to that overall big picture of how you're nourishing your body. It doesn't have to be perfection 24/7, but every great choice you can make is, a couple extra building blocks for your skin, or making sure your hormones are a little more stable today. And that makes a really big difference.
Well, what are some things that we should eat in the morning or just to get our day off right to stabilize our blood sugar and just overall, keeping us full and having energy through the day?
That's such a good question. So I think for any meal, the sort of diagram of what your plate might want to look like is about the same. It could be a plate, it could be a smoothie, it could be whatever, but you want to have some source of protein, whatever that might be for your diet. If it's animal protein, if it's plant-based protein, that's going to be important to burn slow and stable for you. Protein is also the building block of your skin, your hair, your nails. And if you don't have it, that's when you really start to see and feel the deficiency. You want to have a source of healthy fat. And again, that's going to help to stabilize your blood sugar by burning slowly, giving you extended energy. And that could be something like avocado, coconut, raw nuts and seeds, whatever it is that you prefer in your diet, nut butter. And then you want to have more than half of your plate or whatever you're eating be colorful, fresh produce. So this might be a little bit of fruit, might be lots of colorful vegetables. I usually say, keep your fruit to a minimum. Like, you don't want to have it be all fruit because, again, that's going to be a big glycemic response, a big blood sugar spike. But fruit is amazing, and you certainly should enjoy. And, especially now in the summertime, this is our instant energy. It's our hydration. It's powering us through the day, and this is the season to enjoy that. But if you can remember those three things, so the clean protein, healthy fat, and then lots of colorful produce, which is where you get all of your phytochemicals that feed your beauty and help you to slow down that aging process, then you are in great shape.
Yeah, I definitely want to slow down the aging process. I'm 47 today.
You look amazing. Happy birthday.
I'm like, it's my birthday. I want to talk about anti-aging.
I know.
Well, I have a question for you. Is peanut butter okay?
Yeah, so peanut butter, there's healthy fat in there. One of the issues with peanuts is that it's a high mold food. It's also heavily sprayed with pesticides. So if you can get an organic peanut butter, that would be great. It's a good place to spend your extra dollars. And again, the mold content makes some people extra sensitive to it. So for some people, it's easier to choose something like almond butter or even tahini, something like that will be just as nutritious for you, but not maybe have the potential exposure to pesticides and the mold.
I never even really thought about peanuts and mold and pesticides.
I didn't until I had an experience with mold exposure, and now I'm very aware, like coffee beans can be a big one for mold exposure too.
Wow. That is why you are so resourceful. I love your stuff. Well, what are some of the best foods this season we can eat?
Yes. So this summer season, we just passed the summer solstice. Again, I mentioned that fruit, but some of the top foods this season are the ones that are rich in phytochemicals like lycopene that help our body or help our skin have a degree of resilience from UV damage. So we're obviously going to be protecting ourselves topically with sunscreen, but your skin still takes some cumulative damage from all of that sun exposure. So that some of those phytochemicals found in our fruits and vegetables can help your skin to bounce back more quickly. So watermelon is a great one. Tomatoes are amazing. Red and colorful bell peppers are wonderful. Green tea is great. Omega-3s that you might find in fatty fish or chia seeds. Those are all good for helping your skin to have that level of resilience from UV damage. And the cool thing is that once you eat these foods, that resilience lasts for a few days. So it's not just like you eat watermelon and an hour later you're more resilient. This is sort of a cumulative effect that takes effect over a few days. So you can just make sure you have these things in your diet every couple of days, regularly, and you're getting that extra level of ability to bounce back from damage.
That is so good to know because, there are some days where you're more motivated, you're eating your fruits and your vegetables, and other days you're like, I got to get out of here. I got to get going. I don't have time to make a salad. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's all about, your baseline where you kind of bounce back to. I have the beauty betrayers and Eat Pretty, the things that really are not helping your beauty. And I put them in there so you can kind of learn about them and just be aware of them. But there's nothing that says that you have to cut them out completely. It's all about being able to find your balance and knowing that, sure, I can have that. I can splurge on this. I can really enjoy that pint of Ben and Jerry's. But I know that I want to come back to this kind of baseline style of eating. This is going to be sustainable for me and help to make me feel and look my best.
I love that because I feel like we are so hard on ourselves. We really are like, oh my goodness, but I think that's life. Like life is balanced. Life is, I just want to live. So if I want to go out and enjoy a treat with my kids, I'm going to go enjoy a treat with my kids. I'm not going to be so hard on myself. And that's come with time. I'm a lot less critical of myself now than I was back in the day. It's just
Exactly. And I bet the advice you would give to your girls is that not to have that negative self-talk, not to have the restriction and limitation, but to know your body well enough to know what makes you feel good. And I agree, like having that healthy food relationship means not having that negative self-talk, the negative, the thought that this food is bad and this food is good.
mm-hmm.
All foods are information for your body, and you want to choose high quality, but yeah, you don't want to have something be off limits, because of course then you'll want it more than anything.
Yeah. And you'll sit and worry about it.
Right.
Not only did you eat it and it was bad enough, you're like, then you sit and worry about it and you feel guilty and it goes on and on and on. It's like, this is crazy talk,
And
like,
in my new book, Ignite Your Light, I talk a little bit about the energy of your food relationship. And this goes beyond what a food does for your body. But there was an interesting study that showed, and they had participants drink like a high calorie shake. And in one part of the study, the shake was labeled like, health food shake, great for you. And the other one, it was like luxurious, creamy dessert. And it was what the participants thought the shake was meant to do to their body actually informed what happened after they consumed it. So it shows you the power of what you believe and what you believe the benefits of your food are, and knowing those benefits, how that can actually change what happens in your body when you receive it.
Wow, that is so cool.
It's mind-blowing.
Well,
like I want to know more about this, and I want
is.
more studies on that.
It is. Well, that's what I love about your books, because you really do tie in like the science and the background. It's not just, it's not just eat this because it's healthy. Like you literally talk about, hey, this has been proven. This is what the science says. This is what the research says. And you go so much more in depth than just, okay, this contains this kind of nutrient. No, it goes into the hormonal shifts in your body, the mood, all of that stuff, how it ties together for your overall wellness.
Right. That's stuff I want to know. And I want everyone to know this is not me making this up. This is out there. So we just need to talk about it more and have it be part of our day-to-day consciousness.
It's not you making it up, but you relay it in such an easy to understand way that anybody can pick up your books and relate to it and incorporate it into your life. And it's just so much easier to understand than, like I'm used to reading medical journals, and I'll read stuff and I'm like, I want to share that. And I'm like, okay, not everybody wants to hear about, that aspect of it,
That's true.
So I want to shift over to talking about your book, which is awesome. And I want to start with, I, like many others, have had health-related setbacks. I've posted several times on how our struggles are a part of our story. It makes us who we are. Can you share a little bit about the inspiration behind Ignite Your Light?
Sure. It certainly was not a book that I ever imagined that I would be writing. It feels almost like it didn't come from me. It has come from my story. But, after, I guess it was around the time that I was publishing the last two Eat Pretty books, essentially overnight, I became pretty debilitatingly ill. And I went right away to a naturopathic doctor and was working with a doctor there for about a year and a half, not making any progress. And I was having extreme cardiac issues, like couldn't walk up and down stairs, couldn't walk a block down the street. Incredible nervous system disturbances, like panic attacks, things that I'd never experienced before. And, people start to say, well, if you just relax, if you just calm down, like, it must be stress. And you start to think, all right, maybe they're right. Like maybe I burnt myself out. I had a 1-year-old and I was publishing books, but I knew that there was something else wrong because I was so ill, like so weak. And it took a few years to figure out that it was late stage Lyme disease and several co-infections that come along with the tick bite. So the co-infections actually had been what hit my body the hardest, something called babesia, which attacks your heart and your nervous system and your autonomic nervous system. At the time it started, I was also living in an apartment where there was mold. So that was a compounding factor and a trigger to make this hit me so hard. But at that point, I already had a clean diet. I already had a very healthy lifestyle, and I was a health coach. I needed more than that to help my body to kickstart the healing. And in researching all of that, I had already been looking a little bit about energy in terms of beauty. Like what is it that makes someone have that magnetic presence that you kind of just want to be around that person? It has nothing to do with their physical form or physical characteristics. It's a lot of energy that ties into beauty. So I had already had that on my mind. And then looking into the way that your energy can completely change the way your body responds, the neurotransmitters that you produce, the inflammation in your body, the lymphocytes that help to kick up your immune system and speed the healing process. And it was also a lot about me feeling back in control of my healing, because I felt so out of control at that point. I was doing everything I thought that I knew how to do to be healthy and to nourish my body, and I believed in my resilience. But it took really diving deep into energy to realize the power that I had, that I wasn't even taking ownership of at that point, to direct my own healing and to write my own story. And I felt like there were times when I was faced with, I can stay here and just give in to this, because I felt like it was really I was going to succumb to it. I was that sick for a long time. Or I can take ownership of my story. And in doing that, just in shifting my energy little by little, day by day, hour by hour, have really seen huge changes from that alone, along with treatment. I'm 2.5 years into some very aggressive treatment for Lyme and co-infections. So it's all been together, but the biggest shift for me and the most empowering thing for me was realizing the power that I had in my energy. And around the same time, we were experiencing really big upheaval politically. Like there was a lot of division, and I felt like I wanted people to understand the energy connectivity that we all share. The fact that in shifting our energy, we can shift what's going on in the world around us. And there was so much power there, and I wanted to tie that into. So it was the beauty, it was the healing, and it was being able to shift what we're experiencing in our society, culturally, globally right now, just using our energy. And that all went into Ignite Your Light.
Which is so relevant right now.
Right. Yeah. When I wrote this book, I did not know it was going to come out during COVID. And I did not know that, these incredible movements would be building and happening at this time. So it has kind of weird relevance. When I pick it up, I think, how did I write that like 2 years ago? And it feels very relevant right now.
It's so relevant.
But I think I wrote it about our personal challenges, and now we're faced with this collective challenge, and the same mindset, the same approach applies, that we have this opportunity, and the energy that we choose for ourselves going forward will have a lot to do with what happens next and how we move on from this and how we learn from it and continue to grow and evolve.
I think that is so powerful when you talk about our own energy. I think a lot of times we think about getting rid of the negative influences around us, but we also have to think about the energy that we're spreading or putting out, how it impacts other people.
Right. And that's really powerful. And yeah, I think even just within my home at some points, I didn't want to be the one carrying that energy. I knew it wasn't healthy for me. I knew it wasn't healthy for others. And in no way would I ever say, make yourself happy every day. But feel what you're feeling and what you're going through. And it take weeks or months or whatever you need, but then know that you still have that power to move beyond it and to shift and to control what you're putting out, because that does influence your physical health, your healing, your physical beauty, which was really amazing to me. The resilience that you feel, because resilience is not built in one decision. It's built in every energetic choice you make every little choice every day, that becomes resilience, is those tiny choices to choose, nope, I'll go outside, put my feet in the grass, and I'll get right back to it. That's resilience, not waking up and saying, I'm resilient. But
Everything's
it's so
great all the
powerful.
time.
And it's so powerful for the way that we age too, which is another way to loop it back to beauty. This is changing the aging process and how changing the wear and tear on our bodies,
Yeah, you are so right about that. I think when I look at your book and just knowing your story, it really shows that often our best work comes from those times we're facing challenges and adversities, because I think that sometimes is what resonates the most with people.
Yeah, I would agree too. And it's not natural for me to like put this stuff out there, but I don't know what had made me do. I think it was putting it out there with Eat Pretty in a way, and seeing how it was received gave me the confidence to put this out there, because Ignite Your Light is even more personal. And it's not all about my story, but it is more raw and personal for me. And that gave me the confidence to do it, with the hope that there would be some beauty that would come out of this experience. That's, someone else would pick it up and find that inspiration. And I will tell you, I have already picked it up myself and reminded myself, especially during quarantine and the height of what we were going through a few months ago with COVID, that I had the power not to succumb to the stress and the fear, but to, rise above that and to help myself be healthier, have a better immune system through all of that.
No doubt. Well, let's talk about what is energy and how does it influence our day-to-day health and happiness?
Yeah. So, a lot of people think energy is like what gives us the power to go to a spin class, or, some people think it's what powers a refrigerator. In this sense, energy is the feeling that your presence conveys. So in a way, it's an alchemy of your thoughts, your feelings, relationships, mindset, mood, emotion, a lot of things. And so there's so much that goes into influencing what your personal energy is. And that's a lot of what Ignite Your Light is looking at those influencers and how you can shift them, and how you have so much power over those individual influencers that create a much bigger effect in your energy.
I had no idea how powerful energy was. I heard, through those books, kind of the power of now, the power of this, and the law of attraction. But, it's just kind of those things you hear. I guess I never really took it serious or really realized what it really meant to, know about our energy and how things we can do to influence it.
I think I wouldn't have if I wasn't forced to be in the situation where I needed it for healing. But then looking beyond that and realizing how powerful it is for the way we age, for our physical appearance, for the joy that we find day to day. Those maybe are things that you wouldn't necessarily need to know about, but like, how cool is it when you can understand it more deeply and see the power you have to shift those things?
Oh my goodness, you're so right. I love how you divided the book into 4 quadrants based on the day. And each one of them, each aspect, each quadrant of the day, you have suggestions for aspects of your life that you can shift or influence your energy the most. Can you briefly walk us through some of those energy influencers through each part of the quadrants of the day?
Yeah. So my hope was that people would see these quadrants of the day and be able to put themselves and their routines into it and think about what their sunrise looks like, what they're doing during the daylight, how they can control their story in the sunset, and then, moonlight, and just be able to put yourself and your routine into this framework. I didn't want it to be about, this is what I do in the morning. But there are 13 energy influencers in the book, and I do divide them between, the sections of the day, just based on what I think mostly apply. So in the morning, you have your mindset, especially when you wake up, you have that ability as you shift from subconscious out of sleep to wake, is a really beautiful time to be able to change a little bit of that framework and the messaging that goes into your mind that your body hears and responds to, and will do so throughout the day. I talk about movement in the morning, and this doesn't have to mean a workout. You don't have to run 3 miles in the morning. It's just, how can you use the way you move your body to create the energy state that you want? Do you want to build calm in the morning because morning stresses you out? Or do you want to, focus your mind and rev yourself up? Do you want to connect to the sun and do a sun salutation? Like, there's so many ways that you can use the way you just move your body to create an energy state that will then, continue throughout the day. And in the morning, I also have the way you prepare your body. So we talk about, the way you dress, the way you groom yourself, and how that's a nice way to check in with your intentions for your energy throughout the day. Moving into the daylight section of your day, this is when the energy is the most yang. So it's intense, it's busy. This is when you're often working, and your work and creativity is a big influence on your energy here. Your relationships, who you interact with, who you talk to, who you pass by in the street, or the checkout clerk that you interact with. All of these little energy exchanges have an effect on you, even if you're not completely cognizant of it in the moment. You're giving out energy and you're also taking it in. And then in this section, I also have breath as a big energy influencer, because it's a nice way to, even though you don't have to think about your breath, it's a very powerful way to shift the energy state that you're in and to check in with yourself during the day. And we've seen so often that when you sit down at a computer, your breath shifts and changes, and that you often don't check in with that or have a relaxed pattern of breathing when you are working during the day. So that's daylight. Then we move into sunset, which is the portion of your day where I think you can often take control of the narrative again. So maybe you're off the clock, maybe you've come home from work, or your family is coming together for dinner. You usually have the ability to choose where you are, what you're doing, at least a little more so than during the day. So in this section, I have the energy of your home space, which is kind of like an extension of your own energy fields. That certain objects and light and space and color can really be powerful for your energy in your home space. I have the energy of sound and music. So talking about sound healing and vibration, and the energy state that different music can convey, and how we can use that mirroring effect to feel different energy states as we listen to music. In this section, I also have play and laughter. So something that so many of us as adults have just kind of wiped off of our to-do lists and schedules, but how powerful the energy states of play and laughter are, but also just how amazing they are for the body, for lowering inflammation, for increasing happiness neurotransmitters, for healing. There's some really amazing science around play and laughter. So that's just encouraging you to have that freedom and that lightness that maybe you weren't able to have during the other parts of your day, and feel the difference in your energy because of that.
I love that. I loved reading that part.
Yeah.
And I think you're so right. The evidence on just laughter for your health and it is so awesome. And I find myself like wanting to go out and bounce on the trampoline with my son. It's like, wow, this is so much fun again,
Right. And remembering, I mean, kids really need it before, for brain development and for exploring kind of their bodies. But as adults, we need it too. And it's really important, and something that maybe a lot of us have forgotten even how to do, and so in that section, there's ideas on how to get started, or even remembering back to how you used to play when you were younger and what you loved then, and trying to find a way to make that inspire you as an adult. So that's been powerful for me too, is bringing that energy of play and laughter into my day more.
Yeah, everything doesn't have to be so serious.
Right.
Like we need to lighten up a little bit. You're so right.
Especially in these times, we need as much lightness as we can get.
Yes, you're so right.
To counter that depletion that I think a lot of us feel. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And then moonlight is the end of the day, and I think that's a real turning inward point. In this section, I talk about your spiritual practice and how powerful that can be for your energy, and how personal it is. Energy release. So having a practice that will help you to let go of some of the energy that you're carrying with you that you picked up throughout the day, and how important that can be for your health and sleep. So energy release is wonderful for good sleep, but sleep itself is just a reset and a bridge between your energetic days. And if you don't take advantage of that, I think it becomes harder to wake up the next day and feel like you're able to create that energy state that you desire. So all of those influencers, and food is actually before everything. I have a little section on the power and the energy of your food before I even go into the day, because I think that's kind of the underlying thread through everything is the food that we're choosing.
Yeah, and you gave great information on sleep and melatonin and what it does for your body. It's just such great information. I didn't realize recently how powerful sleep really was. It was the one thing I really neglected in my life. And it just, made every day so much harder. And I thought, wow, I've said it before, it's like, it's probably the one thing aging me the most is not sleeping.
So interesting. I'm glad you figured that out, because it is like free anti-aging for your body.
Yes.
And even if you look at the science of the anti-aging hormones that get secreted during sleep, it's just so important for so many aspects of your health. And I think it's when you don't sleep well that you really feel the impact on your energy, like how much easier it is to be cranky, to make choices that don't make you feel well, to just not have the initiative and the energy to act the way you want to act the next day. And that's really tough. That's when it becomes the hardest.
Yeah, that's when willpower goes right out the window.
Well, your body's sending you messages to take in more calories, to take in the simpler sugars, and to store all of that. And that just comes from one poor night of sleep, is all those chemical messages to do those things. So it's not our fault. It's, it's our chemistry doing that.
Well, not only do you give a lot of energy influencers, you also talk about energy dimmers, or things that suck the energy out of us. Can you give some examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think these can be personal, but I think, so right away in the beginning of the book, I think just becoming aware and noticing and reflecting on what's happening with your energy during the day is the biggest step that you can take, the most powerful thing that you can do. Because just in noticing, you're already, if you look at the observer effect that I talk about in the book, you're already becoming part of that shift, and you're already initiating that shift just by noticing. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage everyone to notice, when they find themselves in a place where they really are not feeling the energy they want to feel, reflect back, and what was that trigger? Like, what was it that started to create that energy state? Was it an interaction with someone? In your home? Is it clutter around you? Is it things that are, kind of sucking a lot of your time up, that making you feel overwhelmed? Mm-hmm. Is it not having the time and space to be quiet, to relax, to play? There's so many different things that can, lead you to energy states that you don't want, that you want to shift out of. But I think just noticing that and being aware is the most powerful thing that you can do. Because it might be different for everyone, but it could be something that happens every day. Maybe it's the same person that you interact with every day that you're realizing, like when I get off of the phone with that person, or when I leave my office after talking to that person, that's when I really feel it. So watching those patterns can be really powerful.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, as far as those, you mentioned mindset. And so I think you're so right. Self-awareness and mindset are huge in our life. And I want to talk about I want you to touch a little bit about the power that we have to not only change our mindset, but the actual brain pathways.
Isn't that so cool? So neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. So, in a sense, every time that you are shifting out of a certain mindset, and it might be at the same time every day, like waking up and having your first thought of the day be one of gratitude for your comfy sheets, or for the sunlight coming in your window, whatever it is, having that first thought be one of gratitude is creating a new pathway and a new default toward calm, toward joy, toward, positivity. Whereas what if you wake up and reach for your phone every day and you read the news and you have that first default be, worry, stress, fear, what's that one thing I'm going to do today that I'm kind of nervous about? Like, all of those can also become a default. So it's up to you. If you feel that you have those pathways, that have already been made of fear, of worry, of stress. Know that you can change them and you can reform them a different way, but it does take sustained shifts, over a few weeks or months, and the sort of jury's still out on how long it takes. But when you create that pattern, you are building a new brain pathway, and that will become your new default. So there's a lot of power there. And there's so much research done specifically on patients who experience pain and how that can actually change the physical pain that they feel in their bodies by creating those new pathways around what their brain is doing at that point. So much applies to the healing process of the body, but just know, for us day to day, it's just about what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, the joy that we have versus the stress and the anger and the fear and the overwhelm.
I love how you talk about how energy is joy. It's just, seriously, the things that you talk about, and just reading through your book, it's seriously like so calming. Like you have such a calming effect in your writing. It's like, I was telling my fiance, I'm like, wow, just reading her book just makes me feel calm. Like,
I'm so glad. Someone else said that, and I thought maybe it was like the artwork or the colors or something, but that's good to know.
Good
because
too.
when I was first pitching the book, I kept trying to explain that I wanted the book itself to have an energy, like when you pick it up, that you could just feel that right away. And that's what I wanted the artwork to show. And I'm glad to know that it worked in some way.
Yeah, it really did. And I love, not only do you talk about all these wonderful things, you incorporate recipes and, self-care, which is huge. And I know everybody talks about self-care, but no, really, it's like, and that's what shift for me was literally, I was working full time. I was going through all these years of school. I had my kids. I was, I never took time for myself. And that is the one thing that I've come around to, that it is so important. I am such a better person. I've managed to kind of self-heal myself through all of the things I went through. And I feel like I'm just a calmer person to be around when I take time for myself.
Yeah, you're a happier person and you feel more cared for and more fulfilled too. But I think I realized, and it took me until I was creating this book to realize that's what I love so much about the beauty industry and beauty products, is the ability that they have to change our energy. And I never had the context to really understand that. But every time you surround yourself with something that brings you joy, you change your brain and your biology. And so in caring for yourself, and even in physical touch of massaging your face, of applying lotion, you're giving your body that sense of being cared for. And I never really understood that it was much more, much deeper than just like, oh, I love this lip color, or my skin looks great today. It was so much more than that. And I didn't understand it until I was creating this book. It completely shifts the way our body age and day to day, how we feel in our bodies.
I think it's amazing how we can change our energy based on the certain times of the day. It's just like, you've brought so much more awareness to that. Like, okay, as you go through your day, interacting from other people. And I love how you talk about, even at work, how you can still step away and do some of these practices to bring you back into that calm state, to refocus, to, get your creativity back. It's just, I love the little tips you offer along the way. And I love how you talk about just the different things that you incorporate into your own practices that's helped you along the way. And I think that's the things that really help people, that relate to you. Just how you've shared all that stuff. It's just like, your book is like, it's so power packed. I mean, I've been carrying it around with me, and I'm like, you got to read this book. It's such an influence in a positive way for your life.
That makes me so happy. It's been a bit of a challenge to get the book out there during COVID, because obviously all the stores that would normally sell a lot of books are not open. So it's been a lot of people sharing it with friends or people that they feel need this message in their lives, and word of mouth. So I'm so grateful for the chance to be here on your podcast and share it and to hear that.
I want to ask you, was there anything that surprised you while researching this book?
Oh my gosh, like so many things that surprised me. I don't even know where to start with that. What are some of the things? Like, I really enjoyed researching like healing, sound healing and vibration and all the cool information that's there. In the daylight chapter, like learning about flow state and getting your brain into flow and how that boosts your creativity like 500%. And for me, like I'm in my home office and I'm constantly jumping between 5 different things at once. I got an email, I'm doing this, but I'm writing an article and I have a client come, like it gave me the incentive to like shut off a lot of that noise and really focus and get in the flow more often because of how good it is for the body. I also really enjoyed diving into like the vagus nerve of the body. And I only have a tiny box on that in the book, but how powerful that is for your nervous system and how it's this nerve that connects so much of the body together and how much power there is in that. So I think I'll hopefully be writing and learning more on that in the future, but I liked putting a little bit of that in there because I think it's neat for people to understand how a lot of the body is connected and that, you know, the physical aspects of the body that support your feeling calm and feeling joyful.
That was great information. That was great. Well, when talking about the book, what was the biggest challenge for you writing the book?
I think it was how to organize everything. And it wasn't until I figured out the structure of the sun and the moon that it felt like it came together in a way that would not overwhelm people. Because originally I was just going to put all 13 energy influencers out there and give them each a chapter and realized that would be kind of boring, like, and also just overwhelming. And so it felt like a great fit because in the Eat Pretty books, I have everything by season. And I like to have things be organized in a way that has like makes sense and you know, feels like people can pop in and out to different sections. So that kind of brought it together to me. And as a writer, like I really connect to the idea of light. Like I talk about in the introduction, it's always a thing that I'm adjusting or shifting. Like I love natural light. And it really felt like that tied the book together to have that be a theme, both in, you know, in natural light, but also in the light that you're is emanating from your body. And that really brought it together for me too.
Yeah. I think the flow is great. And I think that it has a lot of information. So how long did it take you to write this book? Because there is a lot of information in here.
I think I had 4 months.
You wrote this book in 4 months?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so this time I didn't mention it, but there are more recipes in this book, and I had the chance to photograph them for this book. So I'm proud because that was a big thing for me. I had never done that before, and you know, I'm not a professional photographer, but I was happy with just having the color photos of the recipes. That really brings it to life for me. When I'm looking at a cookbook, I want to be able to see what the meal is going to look like and have it appeal to me. So that was a lot of fun. And I spent the last couple of weeks just like shooting everything.
Yeah.
And that was exhausting for me at the time because I'm still healing and being on my feet to create, to cook and shoot things in my kitchen was a lot, but I'm so glad that I had the chance to do that.
Yeah. I love also, it's so funny that you mentioned this Reiki.
Oh yeah, Reiki?
Yeah. It's funny because I read this and then I started reading something else and it started talking about it. And I'm like, I'd never even heard of it before until you started talking about this. And
maybe you want to check it out.
Yeah, well, it's just stuff like that you talk about and little tools that you can use. And yeah, I really can't believe you wrote this book in 4 months. That's pretty amazing. That's a huge compliment to you.
Well, that's sitting down to write it. So the idea was forming for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you know, so like when you sit down, you have a lot of stuff that just kind of spills out. So.
What are some of the best practices that you've utilized in your own life to keep positive energy?
Oh, that's a great question. One thing that I got really into and I'm still into and I want to share more of is Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra is not yoga and it's not meditation. It's kind of in the middle. It is usually a guided practice that helps you to relax really deeply and get your brain into that state between awake and sleep. So there's a state right in the middle called the hypnagogic state where your brain is rapidly healing. Like it's almost like a hyper hyper healing state for your brain and your body. And when you fall into sleep, you kind of pass through it very quickly. But when you go through a yoga nidra guided recording, it helps your brain to stay in that state for a prolonged period of time. And for me and my nervous system, it just was very calming to me, something I could use at night before bed if I couldn't sleep, but also something that I could use at 1 p.m. Like if I'm starting to feel the stress accumulate over the day, I could do a little guided yoga nidra. And that has been, a real shift for my brain and my body to get more into that subconscious state and give my body the message that it's relaxed and that there is no tension there.
Is
So
that something you teach yourself, or do you get a coach, or how do you learn this practice?
I became certified in it last year when I was looking more into it, but it's, you can find recordings everywhere. So one of my favorite apps is Insight Timer. I don't know if you use Insight Timer. It's a wonderful app that has hundreds of free guided meditations, sound healing, sound baths, yoga nidras. And so you can go on there and just type in, meditation for pregnancy or insomnia, and they have a list of amazing, guided recordings for just about any concern. So you can go on there and check out some of their yoga nidras. And yeah, some practitioners will offer it as a separate course at a yoga studio. So maybe kind of like a restorative yoga, they have like a yoga nidra class. But it's basically just getting your body into this deeply relaxed state. And you wake up and you just feel incredible. Wow. You're somewhere in the middle. You're not asleep yet. Sometimes you fall asleep, but you're not really. And it's deeply rejuvenative and healing to your body.
Wow. It's wild as I get older. It's just seriously like all that stuff you're talking about, just the calming and taking care of your body and getting relaxed. It's like, those are some of the best things you can do to just stay well.
And I feel like, though, those are the things I didn't really give myself permission to even give myself time for before. It felt like, I don't need that. Like, that's fluff, and sometimes I think that is how self-care is treated, like this fun thing that you do on the weekend, but it's so much more than that, as you're saying.
Yeah, it's the core. Do you think you're going to write any more books?
I certainly hope so. So there is a journal that's going to come out that goes along with Ignite Your Light. And it seems like that will be early next year.
Okay. I love journaling.
Yeah, me too. And I use it a lot with my clients. Like, it's so nice to be able to write deeply about something and then read it back, and it helps you reflect on the way you really feel and what you're experiencing. So I'm excited for the journal, and I certainly hope there will be many books to come, because during the point in my life when I was really healing and I really wasn't well, I had the chance to reflect on like what I really want to do, and just writing books is what I always want to do. I love it, and I'm a writer at heart.
Well, you're gifted. You need to keep writing. You have such a gift. It means a lot
to me, and I really take that to heart. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's such a great gift to have. I want to talk with you real briefly. I want to talk a little bit more about beauty as wellness, because we know you're an author, and but really you offer so many more things than just your books. You do a lot more with your Beauty as Wellness.
Yeah, Beauty as Wellness is the name I came up with. It was the website name I came up with like 11 years ago when I was transitioning out of InStyle magazine and wanted to really have something to encompass what I felt about beauty before I even became a health coach. And yeah, that became the name of my health coaching practice. But it started looking at healthy beauty products. So what beauty products were really doing as we put them on our body and they enter our body, what they were doing to our hormone balance, overall to our immune systems and our health overall. So it's such an important thing that I talk about a little bit in the books, but not in depth. But when I coach clients, we always go through their entire beauty routine and look at the different ingredients. Sometimes when I coach, I go through like the top 5 ingredients to avoid, just feeling more empowered as a shopper, because it's so confusing. And there is so much, you hear the word greenwashing, but there are so many companies that had started to just put these beautiful, leaves or flowers on their products and say natural, and that didn't mean anything. So there's still so much that we're learning in terms of what specific ingredients do to the body long term. But the truth is that we don't have the kind of protection and the in-depth research on ingredients that we should have. So consumers, I think, go shopping and they assume that all the ingredients in their products have been tested for safety or long-term safety, and that they're very regulated, and that's not the case at all in our country. And our laws around cosmetic regulation haven't changed since the 30s. So a lot of companies and individuals are working very hard to change that in a way that makes sense, because you don't want to impose very difficult regulations that are going to cause small companies to then not be able to exist or keep up. It's not an easy problem to solve, right. But right now I feel like my job is just to help empower the people that I work with and my readers to ask questions and to look at the background of the products and the companies that they're buying from, because there are distinctions between what is healthy for your body and what can be problematic in terms of synthetic fragrance and hormone disrupting ingredients and preservatives like parabens, that everybody's heard that word but maybe doesn't know, formaldehyde releasing ingredients, which people don't even realize exist or are in many products, sunscreens that might be problematic. So there's a lot there, and it becomes overwhelming sometimes, but just knowing a little bit can really help you to at least have the core of your products, the top 3 or the top 5 products you use the most, be healthy for your body and know that they're supportive of your health.
You are so right. I had no idea the stuff that was in my products, the stuff I was using every day. And we need to think about it for our own self and our own health, but also for our kids.
Yes.
I mean, the sunscreen, we're lathering on them, and it plays out into everybody, the effects on everybody.
And I'm sure with daughters, I'm sure that this is a conversation that you will have and probably have had, but being able to give that guidance to help them to choose something that's not going to affect their hormones at a time when they're developing and they want to play around with makeup or skincare, you have to kind of know where to point them, and it's not easy.
Yeah. I think we could probably spend another whole hour just on hormones because it's so huge. And I didn't realize, just as I've become more aware of nutrition and hormones and the effects of even dairy on our hormones and now products on our hormones, it is huge, the things that can disrupt our hormones.
And we don't really get much education at all in our hormones. It's like this thing that's sort of foreign and that we know maybe creates some PMS or some bloating, but we don't know the depths of what it really does and controls for us. And there are so many experts out there that go in so much more deeply than I do. They're so wise around hormones. Elisa Vitti is one. Trying to think. I'm blanking on the name of Dr. Sarah. Sarah Gottfried is the other one that I love. They're so smart around hormones. Their books are so empowering and should be essential reads for every young woman and any woman of any age.
Are those on your website?
They are. So if you go to my bio, my Instagram bio, I have an Amazon list of my top reads, and both of their books are in there. Okay. Woman Code is Elisa's book, and Sarah Gottfried has many on different hormones, but it's just, I think it should be essential reading for everyone, that we learn a little more about our hormones.
Yeah. And I think, so beauty is wellness on your on the website, on the things it seems like you're listing constantly things to avoid, products that you use that are safe to use. And so it's very resourceful following you. I mean, I learned something from your post and I love what you just shared yesterday. And I think so many people need to know that these young people with the association with diet and acne, and I mean, it's huge.
And it starts to feel like, Eat Pretty has been around for 6 years now. I feel like this has become part of our conversation pretty thoroughly, but there are still so many, dermatologists, for example, that don't approach acne that way at all. And if you ask them, we'll tell you that there's no link at all. And there's nothing that your diet has to do with your skin. And it's just it's missing a huge chunk of the information. So hopefully these studies that are coming out are going to be enough to kind of move the needle and to convince the people that are the holdouts that there is a scientific basis for the link between diet and acne, even though like maybe to you and I, this is such a no-brainer, like, duh, I know that these things make me break out.
Right.
It's, frustratingly maybe not the way a lot of dermatologists approach. And they approach it through, I'll put you on antibiotics for a couple years, open-ended, and think about what that does to your gut health and how your gut connects to your skin and how that perpetuates the cycle of issues in your body.
You are so right. And I feel like that is why I'm so cautious with prescribing antibiotics. And I think people are becoming more aware, but I literally will spend a little time with them and talk about, do you realize the amount of immune cells that are in your gut? I mean, so it is shocking how many years people stay on antibiotics for acne or other reasons. It's like, wow, it's a huge effect on their health.
Right. And I guess you have to weigh the benefits, but where acne is concerned, there is so much that you can do with your diet and your hormones and your gut health that make a really big impact, not having to go down the route of antibiotics.
Well, as far as Ignite Your Light, I loved the series you did. Was it on Instagram TV about each energy influencer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely want to direct people to that because it's just like an extension of the book, an extension of you talking about each of these energy influencers. And I also want to direct people to that video you did on Instagram about your own self-care rituals where you shared the natural products you're using. That is such helpful information.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I think that was, I did sort of like a self-care night and just showing some of the stuff that I do that makes me happy and makes me feel cared for. And, like I said, our beauty routines actually have so much power over our energy. I like to use my cleansing routine at the end of the day just to imagine like cleansing away and washing away the energy that I don't want to carry with me into the next day. And to make it a real visualization, I think gives it even more power. And there's so much you can do with your skincare and your self-care that has the same effect.
But I loved it because you're so authentic. You're literally no makeup on, just slathering the mask on your face, using the tools. Like you are just awesome. You are so down to earth, so approachable, so relatable. I just want to send people your way. So where can they find you?
So my website is Jolene Hart. It's JoleneHart. And that is my Instagram handle and my Twitter handle. And yeah, I'm trying to do more IGTVs, and there's a little 3 to 5 minute clip on each one of the energy influencers. So if you want to know more about movement or relationships or spirituality, you can check out one of those and it'll give you a little more info. Yeah, any of those places you can connect with me, and there's always something new somewhere.
Like you're really helping, even with those little videos, just learning to find the good in things, learn to incorporate this in your life. I want to ask you one last question, and it is, what is the impact you hope to have on the world related to your work?
Oh, that's very powerful. I just want people to feel good in their bodies and feel good about their bodies. And I think every human being deserves that chance to have that feeling about themselves and in their bodies. And that's just what I want people to learn, is that I hope that they will find a way to feel good in their bodies, because that brings such a different perspective to your life day to day. And that we all know our body, we only have one body. Our body is our temple, but I want you to be able to feel good in that body that is yours.
I love that. Thank you so much for talking with me. I hope that we can do this again. I had a great time. I love talking to you and learning from you.
We can chat for another hour. This is so easy.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hold you to that because I'm going to ask you to do this again.
You know where to find me. This will be easy.
All right. Well, good to talk with you. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Everybody, go follow her. She is awesome. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.